Hey guys, it's Toby Morrison here from CFS Health, and I can't believe we're doing this. This is pretty cool. And we've got Charlie Bennion on the other side of the world in UK. Hey Charlie. I got a surprise when we jumped on Zoom just before, I was expecting you in your new home that you've been renovating for the past year, which has been a huge goal of yours in your recovery and stuff. And then we jumped on and you're in your car because it's how cold is it over there?
-3, it says in the car. It's pretty cold, to be fair.
And before we get into the interview, for you guys watching at home, Charlie suffered with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, for a fair period of time, actually. And you're a mother of how many kids?
I have 2 of my own, and I have 3 stepchildren as well.
Yeah. So basically 5 kids. And we go a while back, but I know this is a pretty special moment for us in a way, because I remember you messaged me, and it was a while ago now, and you said one of my goals is to become a success story.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember it very clearly. I've still got it written down.
Yeah. And I'm getting kind of chills down the back of my spine because, that's a big goal to have. And so inside our program, we have goal setting sessions with all our members, and we kind of plan the year ahead and what we want to focus on and improve. And I know one of them was to become a success story, and here we are today that you get to actually achieve and tick that off, which is pretty special. So and the other thing is, like, you've just renovated a farmhouse, which is so cool, and we'll see if we can get some photos and put this in the interview as well later, because it's a pretty special achievement what you've done there, and to be well enough to be able to do that is pretty incredible too. But I'm really excited to talk to you about your journey today, because I don't think it's just about one thing. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about with you, particularly because I got to watch your journey. And I think it'll be really special for the viewers to kind of have a different perspective and go, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that, But let's just quickly talk about, before you joined the program, what was your biggest challenge? Like, what was, give the guys just an example of where you're at. Like, were you going from doctor to doctor? Where were you at in your life?
So before I sort of got ill properly, if you like, whereas it stopped me, I was in the process of, I had this master plan to actually do some solution focused coaching and work for myself. And I was working full time for the NHS at the time. And what happened, because I was useless at saying no, what happened was I continued to work full time for the NHS, and I continued to do 2 part-time jobs as well. And obviously I was, I remember being so proud because I managed to find a diary on Amazon that had room for 3 jobs. And I look back and I just think,
oh my
Christ,
God.
I'd say, I know. And so I didn't give up anything. I didn't, I was still running the family, the home. I had a horse, the animals, all that kind of stuff. And I just kept piling stuff on, and I wasn't looking after myself. And I got a cold, and then I got another cold, and it just started to kind of go from there. And I didn't take time properly to go back to work. I would just go straight back into a full caseload. I was constantly trying to keep going because I wouldn't allow myself to stop. And then eventually it literally just stopped me in my tracks. And I spent the entire 12 months being off sick at work, trying to get back to work. And occupational health would just essentially laugh me out of the office and say, just go home, you're not coming back. And then they retired me through ill health, which was in itself a challenge as well, because it's just, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but in the UK there are hoops to jump through. So they say you're not well enough to work, but then they don't make it very easy for you not to work. So there's a huge amount of pressure financially.
Yeah, I have heard that. I mean, we've got other members from UK that you're friends with as well, and they went through the same thing. What, in your darkest days, was it just like blind shut, lights off, laying?
Well, actually, weirdly, I mean, this was one of my demons, really, because I used to sort of look at people with diagnosis of chronic fatigue and think, well, what's wrong with me? Because I'm not that bad. I don't have to, I can kind of get up and I can have a shower and stuff. But my worst days were, I couldn't get up the stairs. My husband would have to push me up the stairs. I would just literally sit in the chair. My brain fog was phenomenal. My cognitive state was awful. I just couldn't think straight. I literally couldn't see straight. I just lacked everything. There was just no fire in my belly at all. I just couldn't keep doing it. But the problem was, Toby, I did keep doing it. I still made the beds, all that stuff that as a mum I felt was my job. And I remember, I think I had to do a questionnaire thing for a CFS assessment with the NHS.
Right.
And you have to rate yourself 1 to 10. So I would have this massive list of everything I was doing, and all my energy was like 2 or 3. So I was literally going through the motions, even though I actually felt horrific. And I couldn't walk straight. I couldn't walk. I was like really slow. I can't really describe it in any other way. It's like there's just no power.
No power going. Your battery was at a pretty low point.
Yeah, like I wouldn't wash my hair because I just didn't have the energy. So of course my self-care, so all of the energy that I did have just went out instead of going in. And then that sort of then compounded the whole kind of psychological shit show that it is, really.
Yeah. Well, that was my second, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, you're obviously like someone who takes pride in their kids and family and home life. Did you feel I know a big one for a lot of mums is the guilt. Was there a heavy burden of guilt that you felt like you're not performing as a wife, a mother?
Yeah, massive. And I felt it very keenly, especially with my daughter. So when I first got, so that, to put this in context, they think I've probably had it for years, but it was just very low level, and occasionally it would stop me. And I'd have like a week off work and then I'd just go back and carry on. So when it stopped me properly, which was about 7 years ago, like literally 7 years, almost to the week, my daughter was 14 and she felt it. She really, and the guilt for me for that was, it was tough for all of them, because, it'd be, oh God, mum's tired again. Which of course is an understatement, but that's what they saw, because that's how I articulated it. I'm just too tired, and they hated it. Yeah, it was tough.
What was your experience like before joining the program? Where you kind of, did you go through the runaround of 100 blood tests and seeing lots of different doctors and all that kind of jazz?
Yeah, well, a big thing for me, if I'm honest, was I think I was in a little bit of denial, and I spent a lot of time convincing myself that I probably wasn't as bad as I thought. And so I would go backwards and forwards to the doctors, and I had to go back every week whilst I was off sick, because that's how they did it, which then of course for me was a massive trigger, because I just felt like the world's biggest time waster. Just the whole process was awful. And it took, so that was 2014. And I think I got my diagnosis. So I finished work properly 2016, got my diagnosis 2017. And actually, I think I was really lucky, because the GP surgery that I had, he was actually a very proactive GP, which is really unusual. And I am very aware that he was a really decent bloke, actually. But then once I got the diagnosis, it's such a limited kind of treatment. They just do their best. The NHS is great for many things, but I think for CFS it has its struggles, because it is what it is.
Yeah, I think you've summed it. It's very nice of you to put it that way. And it's great that you got a doctor who could diagnose you, because many people don't, they have those doctors that just say it's not real, or you're making it up, or it's all in your head, whatever. Yeah. But even getting diagnosed by a good doctor, you still kind of, you get to that standpoint of like, well, what do I do now, doctor? And they're like, well, kind of,
people were saying to me, well, this is it. You just need to learn how to manage it. This is it. Mm-hmm. And No, not one single person, Toby, would tell me that I was able to recover. Even in the CF treatment team place, I can't even think what it's called anymore. They just would not say you will get better. I think they were so frightened of doing that because they didn't know how that would work. So I literally used to Google, how can I recover from CFS? And that's how I came across you, literally. And I signed up for a webinar, I think, and I listened to you. I was laying in bed because I was tired and I was listening to you, and I honestly, it makes me really emotional thinking back to it, but it made me cry because you were like literally the first person who understood exactly what I was going through. You talked about all my symptoms. It was literally like you knew me. It was unbelievable. And that's when I signed up for CFS Health. So that was, I think, 2017. Yeah. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, crazy.
Wow. Making me teary.
Literally, you were the only person that I could find on the whole of the internet that says, yes, you can get well. It's crazy. I mean, what's that about? Imagine if I wasn't like the person that was looking for that, and people would just kind of drift in this depression thinking, this is my life forever. It's awful. Anyway.
I'm so glad you found us. It's been an incredible journey.
The game changer. Yeah.
What was it like when you joined the program? Like, what did you feel when you first entered it?
So I think it was like two-pronged for me. So there was obviously the CFS Health, the original program, and that was really good because it gave me loads of information. I think though I was still in that mode and mentality of push, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I was almost, I mean, looking back, you know, it's easy with a bit more awareness and hindsight, but there was always that just trying everything. You know, I would try all various things of nutrition, but I didn't have patience. And so, you know, I just kept flitting around. So I've kind of, you know, I was aware of the backbones. I just needed more. And then I remember, I think I saw you on Instagram, and this is just before the mentorship program, and I was just so run down and angry and resentful and just so fed up with what I perceived was like, you know, my lot, if you like.
I remember we had a conversation on, and this is what I'm so glad you brought it up, because this is what I wanted to talk about. This is the massive thing that most people don't realize, but like you were so caught up in the anger and the frustration of what was, not what is, but what was. And, you know, like, and it was funny because I was trying to shift you out of it for a little while, and you know, and we were having this dialogue, and you were so upset, and so there was so much heavy emotion surrounding, you know, your past, that you couldn't move forwards. Like, you were just so bogged down. And we had a massive chat about it, and you agreed. You said to me, you're right, like, this is what's actually keeping me stuck. And, you know, this is why coaching and perspective is so important, and we all need it. Not just you, but we all need it in our lives. We need outside perspective. And you've just been through such an incredibly amazing journey. Like, I wish people saw that conversation we had, because you were not the same person.
No. I agree. I think I was so intent on being everything to all people, and I was so ill, and I was so pissed off that I didn't understand why, if I showed my love for people by caring for them, why they would let me do it being ill. And I was so resentful of everything I had to do, and I lost all my joy and my perspective. And I now realize, you know, because of the work that I've done through the mentorship, so for me it was definitely a combination of physical and my mindset towards it. So my physical stuff was, I mean, I don't know what I would have done without the mentorship, to be honest, because it took time and patience and coaching and reassurance and then, you know, to enable me to just stop in my tracks and just say, hang on a minute, Charlie, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? But then, you know, all of that associated guilt, but then that underlying resentment that people were, they would literally, I used to think that they would literally watch me run myself into the ground. And I realized it's because they just, well, I mean, we all do the best that we can, but it was like, I don't know how to explain it in the right way. I was enabling them, if you like, by disenabling myself.
Yeah.
So they would take my cue as to how much I could do because they couldn't read my mind, which is still the most frustrating thing on the planet for me. Why can't people see what I'm trying to tell them on the inside? You know, it's kind of.
But boundaries, right? This is like boundaries 101.
Oh my God, me and boundaries. And I think that's the thing about the mentorship for me, was that kind of, come on, Charlie, put your money where your mouth is, be accountable for the shit that I chat, really, because it's not helpful sometimes. And I just needed to take a big, long, hard look at actually how I managed myself and what the message, the information I was giving out, you know, because I was just like behaving like a doormat. It was ridiculous. You know, I wouldn't say no to anything.
Remember that saying that I said from one of my mentors, it's nice to be nice, but it's not nice to be a doormat.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But you were, you know, but you're running on empty, you know, and that's the problem. And so many women your age go through this process where they lose their identity in the form of helping and saving other people, when in fact, you know, the only saving you need to do is for yourself and filling up your own cup first, and then, you know.
And as a nurse, because I was a mental health nurse, I think it's really tough. And what I've realized looking back is, you know, like in my job especially, you know, and to my kids, you know, I would talk the talk and I'd give them the guidance, but I actually wasn't investing in it myself. And, you know, looking back, I mean, it just seems so obvious. I mean, of course, you can't pour from an empty cup, but I did it every single day.
Yeah.
And I think I just became proficient at it. And one of my favorite sayings at the moment is, you know, like, there are so many people running around wearing their exhaustion like a badge of honor. And it just takes practice though, and it takes support to kind of lose that, because it's, you know, 50 years of kind of those habits, and it takes courage to say, actually, that's not what I want for my life anymore.
Yeah. Can we I want to go through, there's so many things, but you said it takes courage to not live that life anymore and to choose a different one. How much, you know, like, most people just think like, oh, you just need to change your nutrition, like you need to do your physical stuff, you need to recondition your body, and you did that stuff anyway, which was really great, and your baseline and all that. But to fundamentally step into, you know, I guess your fullest potential, and to let go of the guilt and the shame and the frustration and the angry Charlie, and to start to embody a new version of who you are and step into that. And really, truly, like, you guys who are watching this, like, literally, it's almost like I'm talking to a different person than the time that we spoke on the phone almost 2 years ago. It was like talking to a bloody brick wall. I was like, can you see that X, Y, Z? And you're like, yeah. Like, you were just so off it. And I was like, man, this Charlie girl needs to bloody change a few things. And, you know, like, your transformation's been absolutely amazing. And I do have to say one thing, like, your consistency was incredible throughout the entire program. Like, I don't think you missed a single call. You know what I mean? Like you were there always. Like, you always showed up. You always were fully present. You gave as much as you could inside the program. You helped other people inside the program as well. Like, you shared your wisdom, but you took it on. Like, you were willing to take on the change and be curious and let go of, like, oh, I should know this already, or I should be doing, like, I already know this stuff. You just let all that go and you fully embodied the change, and you started to actually feel it and act it and do it. And even with nutrition and the weight loss stuff that you were going through, you know, the body image stuff, like all of this stuff. And women, all these women go through it. Like I just did a poll the other day, something like 88% of women struggle with weight gain.
Yeah.
You know, like they want to lose weight with chronic illness, and it's like they're yo-yo dieting, they're restricting, they're focusing on all the wrong things, and they wonder why they're still not able to lose the weight. And instead, you let that go. You trusted the process, and you focused on getting your health back and building that. And that's pretty damn amazing.
Go on, sorry.
No, go.
I was just going to say, I think that because the mentorship was such a safe place for me, and I'd never met so many people who got me. I think that therefore it becomes safe to be vulnerable, and I think I needed to be vulnerable in order to acknowledge my part in my illness. But that's not about blame or fault of me. It's not like, you know, it's about acknowledging that I needed to do things differently, and learning and becoming to understand that it was about my self-value was massive for me, because what I realize is that everything I've ever done, I think through my life, has always been about where I sat my value. So one of the things that freaked me out was because you know, we talk about people being perfectionists, and that's quite common through CFS. I'm not particularly a perfectionist, but what I do have is incredibly high standards of myself, or did. And that was in itself a relentless kind of push to getting it right. But then the added bonus of never getting it right because I wasn't a perfectionist, so therefore beating myself up because I wasn't good enough. So the mindset part of the CFS mentorship it was huge for me, because it made it okay for me to say, actually, no, I'm not going to do that, because it's okay. And having that trust in myself to know what's right with the physical boundary stuff and the physical baseline stuff. So, and one of the things that I learned from you is that is that losing that need to be perfect, because almost there was a part of me that tried to be perfect in my recovery.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to get everything right all the time.
That was getting in the way of your recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was. I mean, I could still sit in those mentorship groups now. I absolutely loved every minute of those 2 years. Well, it was about 18 months in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Such a massive thing to kind of make the decision to go. I just felt like I needed to give myself, it was like the biggest trust exercise I could give myself to leave and know that I've got all my fundamentals, you know, and I still touch base, and it's really a gift. It was a gift. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I always say to people is the program's not a recovery program, it's a life program.
Yeah.
You know, it's about life and getting, you know, living your life fully again. And, you know, you just got to that point where you were just having so much fun. Like you were just in there to learn, and like, you know, you're living your life, you're renovating your house, you're gardening, you're planning with your husband about this dream home really that you've built, and getting stronger in your body, and you know, I think, you went from the focus of the body and getting your body right and reconditioning that, and getting your immune system stronger through your nutrition and sleep and all that, which was a process in itself, and you went through that inside the program. But then probably after those first 6 to 12 months, there was a shift there, and the shift was, oh, it's time to start living life now. Like I'm starting to feel well again, and I am well. And there was a whole process with that, you know, integrating back into life, which we kind of go pretty deep on too. How did it feel to start getting your life back, like tangibly, like you, and just this change in yourself? Like the old you, maybe, you know, you would have said yes to everyone, or you might have lost your shit with everyone, or you might have just been pissed off with yourself. Like, what's it feel like now where you can, rather than getting in that old self-sabotage cycle that you used to get into so much, that self-loathing and that such low self-worth and need for outside. But instead, now it's just like, I don't know, for me, you honestly look amazing, Charlie. And like I can see it. Like, you know, I've known you for a while now. So like, what does it feel like now to be you?
It feels calmer. I think do you know what? I just kind of feel a little bit more in charge of myself. And, you know, my journey it's a progress still, because I want to keep sort of like the growth, and I like the change.
Personal
I'm very aware that, you know, it has to be, I can't just be a bull in a china shop, you know, with my family, because they've been through this illness with me. So it's about, you know, kind of being gentle with their recovery through it too.
Wow, that's fascinating. I've never heard, sorry, I need to interrupt. I've never heard anyone say that. That's really fascinating.
You know, my husband has been massively supportive, and it's been tough because he lost me for a while. And you know, and the Charlie that is here now is not necessarily the same Charlie that was here pre-illness. So there are some adjustments to make. You know, I do, you know, my values have changed a little bit because they needed to, because actually I wasn't looking after myself. So it's still a work in progress, but it's about acknowledging his part in that, really, and my kids, because they were there, you know. And I suppose the flip side of this is, and the thing that I was frightened about, but actually has worked out really well, and I hope they agree with me, because I might just be, you know, might just be my fantasy, but I think that as I stick to my values and I actually practice what I preach, I think that's something that they see, and it becomes kind of better for them, if you like, because they can see that perhaps the way that I used to manage my life in the olden days isn't perhaps the best way forward. You know, I don't want any of my kids to run themselves into the ground to please everybody all of the time, you know, and end up in a situation where they don't have any joy in their life, or they resent things because they've said yes to something that actually they weren't comfortable with. So, you know, it's an ongoing process, and luckily it's not perfect. And I'm much better at listening to my body and my needs and not getting stressed. So, you know, if something, you know, like, so some days I might feel a bit knackered, but then, my God, I've just upped the ante massively. I've gone from living in a caravan to a house, and I just get exhausted bloody wandering around the island and looking for what it is I've forgotten, because I'm nearly 53 and my brain's gone, you know. It's kind of like...
Well, I mean, your house is massive too, but I think oh my God, you literally made me cry. If anyone can see my eyes, I was literally like, and I'll tell you why in a second. But you know, what you're talking about here is just normal tiredness, and you got
exactly.
You understood this probably, I don't know, maybe 12 months in or something, like, as you got better. Basically, you got stronger, you got better, and then you realized, oh, it's okay to be tired after I have a massive day of renovating or moving stuff, or
just moved house. Yeah,
literally. Of course you're going to be tired. Yeah. Like I mean, and I always say this to clients, like, all you need to do is walk down the street in the morning and see healthy people yawning and saying how tired they are, and then they're lining up for 20 coffees to get their day started. Like, that's called normal tiredness. And so, you know, anyway, it's a huge sign of progress. But like what an example you're setting, you know, like, it's just absolutely incredible for those people close to you to have someone like you, a role model like you, to live by your values and to show them, you know, what looking after yourself actually looks like, not just on a physical level though, you know, like actually on a soul level, and on a on a purpose-driven level. And for me, like, I don't know if you know this, Charlie, but we actually spent, well, I spent days on this, but we came up with a new mission statement for CFS Health, because as you know, we're kind of growing and expanding. We're helping like literally a lot of people in over 53 countries now. And for me, you guys, you and all the other clients are like my most important people, you know, in my life with my team. And it's not so much just the people that we're working with, but it's their families, you know, like it's the impact that you're having on your family and the ripple effect that then has in their closest proximity. And that's what was making me tear up before, because like that's what fucking matters. Like that's the gold, you know. And like we're making a huge difference across the world. When I say we, you, me, everyone that is doing this work, because like that's the ripple effect that changes the world. And it might seem small, like it's an individual thing, but it's not. Like your husband is a better man because of you. And how special to have that connection, even though that you are different to what he married, you know, all those years ago. But it's so special to be able to, for you to have that love and the capacity to realize that, wow, like I've really changed and I'm going to help him through that process too. Like that, for me, like how special is that, and how bonding can that be? And for you to allow yourself to change, but that also allows him to become more of who he truly is too. And I know it sounds maybe a bit too wacky and spiritual for some of you, but it's like really that's what this is about. And it's becoming more of who you are and being true to yourself. And I think that for me is like just so important. And you know, that's what we stand for, is we create healthier, whole human beings who create a ripple effect in their immediate family. And that has a ripple effect in the world that so big that we will never really truly know the difference that it makes. Yeah. So thank you for being part of that too. Like, you know, it's amazing.
Well, no, thank you. I mean, seriously, the mentorship was a game changer for me. Massive game changer. It really was. It still is. It still is, Toby, because it doesn't just, you know, it doesn't go away. I don't stop thinking about it. It's quite funny, really, because I think awareness and growth, it's kind of like I might not sort of sit and read kind of, you know, guru manuals every day or anything, but there's this kind of sense of this sort of kind of like you're sort of sat on my shoulder a little bit, sort of thinking. So I'm kind of, it's just in my mind, you know, kind of to do things that are good for me and useful for me. And this does not mean, I really need to kind of reinforce this, that I do not live a perfect life. And for me in itself is gold, because life has to ebb and flow. And that's part of the process of growth, is that, you know, sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. And I don't know if it was you or Gemma that said, you know, you're either winning, learning, or judging yourself. So for me, the judgment is the bit that I'm not interested in anymore. The learning and the winning, I'm all for, but I don't need to judge myself, because I just do the best that I can in any one situation. And if I don't like it, then I do it differently. And that makes a difference.
For me, the biggest difference, and hopefully you guys at home are watching this and seeing this, some of you probably not, but she's not talking about recovery anymore. Like, can you see that? Like this is where mindset, like you know, I always say like new level, new challenge, basically. New level, new perspective, new level, new devil, and your whole, you know, standards and paradigm has to shift in order to get there. And you're at that level now where, you know, you realize that health is an ongoing thing, you know, purpose and you know, life is an ongoing thing. You don't just get to a point and then stop. You know, it's an evolution, which is what you're, you know, you've kind of been on that journey for a while now, which is just really cool. But you're doing it in a very nice, relaxing way. I mean, honestly, your transformation's been unbelievable. I wish we had a recording of that conversation we had, because people would just laugh so loud.
There might be somewhere on Instagram, because I think I originally sent you a message. That was the first thing I did. And then we had a call. But I think in that message, I just felt really stuck in my life or something, and like lacked joy. I think I'll have a look somewhere. It'll be right at the beginning of the messages.
I'll see if I can find you. I know we've had a bit of dialogue back and forth on Instagram, but I'll see how far we can get back. Oh, here we go. I'm stuck. I feel like I'm wasting your time. Do you want me to read this out or not?
You can do, yeah. I can't remember what it says. I know that it was like, Toby, help, please help.
I haven't been consistent. Tended to get some proper help from you and coaching, because I'm not doing it properly, and I feel like I'm wasting my time and your time. I feel like I'm incapable and I'm stuck at being around 40 to 50%, which is enough for everyone around me, but not enough for me. Everything feels like a should, and it's making me sad. Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah. It's quite articulate of me, because I would say that summed it up. So that was, so I was doing everything that everybody perceived that I needed to do, but there was just no joy.
That was May 2023. May 23rd of May 2019. And then on the 5th of September, you sent me another message. So you must have joined the program, and you've said...
I joined the program in December 2000.
That's right. Yeah. So you've sent another one saying about how much of a hard time you gave yourself, and that you're slowly coming out of this. And you said, slowly and surely, I must win this race. And I will most definitely join your program in the near future. I hope all is well with you. And then, you obviously joined, and really cool. You've come, I mean, that's crazy how far you've come, which is just cool. Oh my God, you were building back then, huh?
We bought this.
Look, I don't know if I can show on my phone, but that's like...
Oh, that was last...
I can't see my cameras. It's not... Oh, there we go.
Me. Yeah, that's a later message. That is me cleaning roof tiles last year, and I literally wouldn't have been able to do that the year before. I wouldn't have got up the ladder. So I think it was like a bit of a, look, this is what you've created. I can get up on the roof type thing. Yeah.
Oh, man, bloody amazing. Before we go, I just want to ask you two questions. The first one's important. The second one's more important. First one is, if someone's thinking about getting help, they're all over the shop. They've been through what you're going through. They're going through what you've been through, and they're like, oh, should I join the program? Should I not join the program? They're umming and ahhing. They're Google searching, like how they're scared, they're skeptical. Like, would you recommend the program? Is it worth the investment? What would you say?
100%, honestly, 100%. I would recommend it. I absolutely think that it was a gift, and that it changed everything for me. It changed my entire perspective on recovery, and what was possible, and how I could achieve it. Absolutely would recommend.
What was the most helpful thing inside the program, or top 3 things that you felt was a lot?
Top is easier, because I would just say kind of everything. So the community was incredible. I've made lifelong friends through that community, honestly. I'm in contact with a few people, kind of, it's an absolute gift, I can't tell you. And so that safe, loving, understanding community of like-minded people who have the recovery as their goal is just, it's priceless. The accountability from yourself and Gemma, I love that, because it's like a metaphorical bomb up my arse, really, and it's what I needed. I needed somebody to say,
we're a bit nicer than that.
Oh yeah, no. No, in a very gentle, loving way. I mean, really.
Yeah.
But for me, I did did need that sort of, come on, Charlie, you can do this. How are you going to do it?
We all need accountability. Yeah.
Yeah, still need accountability. You know, it's kind of, it's what I want. So the community, the accountability, just the information generally. I can't pick three. I don't think I can. The information, I mean, you know, the knowledge from Dr. Olivia, I mean, just unbelievable. The woman she's incredible. The mindset coaching with Gemma, Christ, she's wise beyond her years, an incredible woman. And then the coaching with you, I just think honestly, Toby, it can't be measured. It's excellent, really excellent. I loved it. I loved every second of it.
You didn't want to leave at the end because you loved it so much.
No,
most people don't.
I didn't, and I still, you know, I look back and I think, oh God, I really miss it.
I know.
But in a good way, not in a kind of, oh shit, I shouldn't have left because I can't cope.
No.
But in a, I just miss you guys.
Yeah.
I talked to Nicola and she's sort of, oh, we had such a good session today, and I'm like, oh, I really miss it. Because I never not learned something. Is that actually, I don't know if that's English.
Yeah. Well, I think two things I said to you. I think I wanted you to leave. I think there was a point where I was like, you know, it's time. You know, like you're actually because you I think you told me like, I think I'm gonna leave soon. Like I don't want to, but like I'm feeling so good, and I was like, it's time. Like spread your wings. And the second thing I wanted to ask just quickly, because a lot of people have never experienced it, what is group coaching like? Like, is it, because people just think it's just like, oh, it's not even good, like, but it's way better than one-on-one, in my opinion.
So interesting. I think I learned so much from people, and just that connection you make with people when you're hearing something that you felt. And, you know, I didn't ask questions every session. Sometimes I would just sort of sit and listen, but there's something so reassuring knowing that there's somebody out there that is experiencing something that you completely understand. It's not at all scary. It's like it's just like a massive hug. It's just very loving, safe, nurturing. Everybody's there for the right reason. Everybody's there because they want to learn, they want to recover, they want to support everybody else in that environment. It's just really nice. It's very clever. I used to come away from those sessions just feeling really energized. Yeah.
Well, even in our lifestyle integration program, you kind of upgraded into integrating back into life, which is a whole separate program. And and since you left, it's even more bigger in the sense of, you know, long-term goals, values, talking about big dream stuff, which is just really cool for those guys now. And that's why Nick was probably telling you, oh my God. And you can come back in there. You'd probably love it now, because it's about kind of what you're talking about. But yeah, like even in our sessions, I remember there was one session in particular, you know, you were having a tough time, and, you know, you just brought your question. We jammed on it. We did a coaching session on it, and you had a huge breakthrough, and you having that breakthrough then helped everyone else in the room go, how is this relevant for me? What can I take away from it today? And, you know, everyone's getting their notepad and pen out, and, you know, really, what's three pieces of advice you'd give someone who's just watching this right now, and they're going, they're struggling? What's three pieces of advice just straight from the heart from you?
To trust you, and to trust the process of the mentorship. It really is. I've never experienced anything like it. It was just literally the best thing I ever did. The next thing is to be kind to themselves and to stay patient, because recovery can be a process. For some people, it shifts quicker. For me, it took a little bit of time. I think it's really important not to judge yourself for it not happening as quickly as perhaps some people, because everybody is on their own journey. So I think when I left the mentorship, I think I said, you know, like, eat your greens and trust the process. And that's kind of, you know, it's a my husband just walked past, stuck his tongue out at me. It's not. Yeah. Did that answer the question? 3 pieces of advice? Yeah.
Yeah. And for someone who, you know, can't join the program right now, or isn't, you know, just can't join the program, what's one bit of advice for them as well?
I would say have a look at your stuff on Baseline.
No, yeah, the free training. Yeah, we'll leave a link somewhere,
Yeah.
or just all you need to do if you can't find the link, just type in cfshelp.com/baseline. There it is right there.
Yeah. And I think to gather the people that are closest to you and say, and try and be vulnerable and say, actually, this is where I'm struggling and this is the help that I need. Because the biggest hindrance for me was that I wouldn't ask for help because I didn't want people to say they couldn't help me, or I hated that idea of people, you know, like the kids, they were younger, they were teenagers, you know, you ask a teenager to do something, like, oh, God's sakes. So I would take that to heart, thinking they didn't want to help me, so I'd stop asking. So I just think, just be honest about what you need.
Oh, I love that. Like,
and ask for help.
I love the idea of getting your family on board, and it doesn't always work out to plan. Like, I get it. Some people just don't have the great family support system, but to be vulnerable and say, hey, this is where I'm at. Like, you know, I'd really love your encouragement or support around this, or I'd love you to stop telling me what to do because I feel like, you know, this is what I need to focus on myself, and it upsets me when, you know, you say this, or, you know, like, just that getting people on the same page and then you owning it is one step forwards, empowering yourself to move forwards. And then that's what Charlie's done. Yeah.
It's tough, but I'm currently working on the premise that if I ask somebody for what I need, I've got a 50% chance of them being able to help me. And if they can't help me, that's not about me, because why would it be about me? That's about their capacity, not my capacity. So, but if I don't ask, they haven't got a chance. And I'm actively doing that. That's been my thing for the last few weeks. So even if it makes me like, oh, I don't want to do it, I'm just doing it anyway, because what's the worst thing that can happen? The sky has not fallen in. Yes, please.
I think you'd be a great coach. I think you're becoming one. I think guys, look out. You might see a lady online, but she might be coaching soon. Yeah, you've got a good... Well, maybe that's your next purpose in life, is to teach and share your learnings with other people.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah, I must admit, I do. I miss that part of my life, you know, that kind of engaging with people, and I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. I get a real fire in my belly when I talk about kind of that kind of stuff. I do like it.
Well, that's something to explore. I think that's your next journey. After the big, you know, finish of the house. Maybe you can be a house coach as well. How to build your dream farm home in UK.
Yeah, possibly.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview on behalf of everyone who has just watched this, really, because there's going to be a lot of people who have, and yeah, just really, really appreciate it, Charlie. And I'm excited because we'll see you at our Christmas party this week anyway, because we have an end of year Christmas party for all our members, you know, present and past. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I want to sort of acknowledge your team as well. They were all part of my recovery process. You know, they're the things that, you know, all the smooth cogs. I think it's, you know, it's a great thing that you're doing. And I truly am grateful to you, to Gemma, to Erin, to Dr. Olivia, to Ash, you know, the whole team. I think it's, thank you, really.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll pass that on. They're amazing individuals, and yeah, we're all in it for the same reason, which is just for that ripple effect, you know, which is happening. And yeah, just
it's a real thing.
Yeah,
it is a real thing.
Blessed to see it.
Yeah.
Blessed to see it. And you know, and yeah, we'll stop there because we'll probably start crying. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks again, Charlie. Really appreciate it.